One of my favorite new tools that's free and that is already part of our Google Suite is Jamboard. So for those of you who have not discovered Jamboard yet, you can find it in your new menu up here on the top left of your Google Drive. When I click on New, it is going to bring up all of the different tools that we are familiar with, doc sheets, slides, forms. But when we click on More, all of these little hidden treasures also appear. And down a little towards the bottom is Google Jamboard. When I click on Google Jamboard, it is going to bring me to a new untitled jam. So now I have this blank slate to work with. You're going to notice some things about this page. First of all, along the top, there are different frames. So we are on one of one right now, but I can keep on clicking and I have all of these new frames to work with. And so you will see that there all together are 20 different frames. So you have 20 frames to work with, however you choose to with your students. So let's go back to the first frame and I'm going to show you some other features. Let's say that we want to set the background for our frame. So for instance, maybe we want to use this dotted paper as a background for writing. Maybe we want to choose just normal lined paper. Or maybe we need to do some math and we're going to do maybe some different plotting, on a graph or something to that nature that we want to use a graph for. There's also a gray toned one. There is a blue background, a black background, and then we can actually choose an image. So what is great about this is, let's say that you want to use a Venn diagram for a lesson with your students. When you look here, you are going to find some Venn diagrams that you might be able to use in your class. So right down here I see one that looks like a good, just kind of basic structure. Now I can just plot that right into my background, and now I have a Venn diagram that I can use for this particular project. Now on the left-hand side, you are going to see that there's a number of tools. This first one is a pen. And I have 4 different pen strokes, and I have 6 different colors: black, blue, green, red, yellow, and white. So this first pen stroke is fairly thin. The second one is just slightly thicker. Then there's one that is almost like a highlighter. And then there is a more of a paintbrush stroke. So I have those different pens to choose from. I also have an erase. So if I wanted to erase what I created, I can just go ahead and erase that. There is a select tool, which I will get to in just a moment. There is a sticky note. So if you wanted to have maybe 2 students on each slide, and you wanted them to compare and contrast some things that you were talking about, then you could have them create these sticky notes to put on their Venn diagram. So if I wanted to add my note for whatever I was wanting to put on this particular Venn diagram, I could do that. So let's just say I'm going to write the word turtle. I have no idea why that word came to mind, but it did. So now I have turtle on this page. If I wanted to add another one, I could add fish. So now these are here up on my page, and you can see that it automatically took me to this select tool. When it is on select, that means that I can drag this wherever I want it to go. I can turn them. I can make them bigger. I can make them smaller so that I can fit more in. And that is how that works. So as long as it's on select, I can make changes. I can also duplicate, delete, edit. So if I decided, you know what, I want this one to actually be pink in color, I can change that. If I wanted to duplicate this and make more than one, I can do that as well. Down here is add an image. So this is wonderful too, because maybe instead of adding Post-it notes, you want to give students to choose, you know, the option of adding an actual image. So maybe they want to search for turtles, and maybe they find one that they want to add in. They click insert, and now that turtle is going to come up onto their screen, and they can add that there. There is an auto draw of shapes. So if I wanted to draw a square and move that around somewhere, I could do that. With the 3 little dots, I can also duplicate that or send it backwards or forwards. So if I wanted to duplicate it, it's going to make another square. If I wanted this square to go in the back, I can send it to the back. I can also bring in a text box. So if I want to type in a word, I can move that anywhere I want. I also can duplicate it. I can delete it if I want, etc. If I wanted this to put it in front of this square, I could move it up here. It's already to the front, but if I wanted to move it backwards, I could go ahead and send it backwards. Now I can go ahead and bring it to the front again. And then down here is a laser. So this is great if you are maybe teaching a lesson and you want to give students instruction. You can talk about things and point, or you know, do whatever you need to do with your laser to be able to explain to your students what you want to share. So those are all of the features. If you were doing this with a class of students, maybe you had, let's say you had 20 students in a Zoom meeting at the same time. You could share the link to this Jamboard in the chat. So you would click on share, and then you would want to make sure that you change this so that anyone in Medford can actually edit, because right now it's on view only. That's going to be the default, but we want them to actually interact with this. So we want to move it to editor, and then we want to copy the link. Now this link can then be shared in your chat box, and then they all will be able to get on. So then if you were in class and you had 20 students, you could assign them all a number, and they would go to that numbered slide. You could have a Venn diagram on each of these pages if you wanted a template that's the same on all, or they could bring in their own Venn diagram or whatever image it is that they're going to be working with. Maybe you want them to plot things on a map of the United States. You could find in Google a map of the United States, and then they could be working with that background. Now let's say you have more than 20 students and you want to still use this. You could decide that you want your students to work in groups of 2, and you assign 2 students per slide or per Jamboard. Maybe you have, maybe you could do 3 or 4 students. And so in either case, whether you do 2 students per Jamboard or 3 or 4, have them go into breakout rooms and then have them work on this assignment. Maybe you also put a link to an article that you want them to read and then be able to compare and contrast, or whatever it is. You can figure out what would make most sense for them to be able to synthesize their learning and to think about what you are asking them to do. So the wonderful thing too is that when you are ready, you can actually change this back to view only. So maybe if you want to bring everybody back together again, you can go ahead and make it so that they can't access the tools. And then you can share your screen and you can actually go through and talk about each of the different slides. the different Jamboards, and maybe use the wheel of names of everybody's names, or maybe you have, instead of names on the wheel of names, you have groups. So maybe you have 5 groups and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could select the group by spinning the wheel of names. Or maybe you have 6 groups. You could use a digital dice and you could roll the dice, and then whatever number it lands on is the group that gets to share out that what they did on their Jamboard. So I think that this is a fabulous tool. You could also have students create their own Jamboards and share them with you if you wanted them to participate in an activity. So lots of choices, lots of ways that Jamboard can be used. Again, it's free. It's already part of the Google Suite. It's easy to be able to integrate it into Canvas as well. It's wonderful to be able to use in a Zoom meeting. So have fun with Jamboard, and I hope you find awesome ways to use it in teaching and learning.